First month already down.
You're running.
Okay, we are calling the meeting to order here. This is the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee meeting on the 26th of January, 2012. And our first order of business this evening is to go through a process that we go through annually, and that's the election of officers. The first thing I'd like to do is introduce who's at the table so far. I'm Brian Watt, the chair.
Stephen Orr.
Lynn Betteridge.
Mike Mitchell.
Patrick Sweeney.
Brian Burke.
Marty Birch.
Larry Potter, Oregon City Parks.
Scott Archer, Community Services Director.
Okay, thank you very much, and
We'll
we'll
introduce Kathy in a few minutes.
yeah, we will. We absolutely will. So we're on number 2 there under our sequence of events there before us, and I would like to open the floor to nominations for the position of chair, and we'll do that one first, and then after that we'll open the floor for nominations for the position of vice chair. So let's open up the floor, and do we have any nominations for someone to fill the position of chair of the Park and Rec Advisory Committee for this next calendar year?
Definite sign.
Don't be shy.
Sounds like you're there again.
I think I can nominate somebody as the chair. So I'd like to nominate Mike Mitchell for the position of chair of the committee. Any seconds?
Second.
Okay. Any other nominations?
You hear the train?
Okay. All right. I'd like to call for a vote. Who is in favor for that? Who is in favor of Mike Mitchell being the chair of the Park and Rec Advisory Committee? If you are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Well, we do have a new chair of the Park and Rec Advisory Committee, unless, Mike, you've got
I'll accept
a
that.
big problem with that.
No, I think I would have said
Great.
something sooner.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that. Great. Fantastic. So I guess we could hand it over to you if you want to open up the floor for nominations for your vice.
Or should we just,
Or your,
why don't you run that and then we'll...
oh, sure,
then
absolutely.
we'll change chairs.
Well, then let's open up the floor again for nominations of the vice chair position. Any nominations? Does not have to be present. To be
I have a
nominated.
question for you. How would you feel about being vice chair?
I'd like to give the opportunity to somebody else. That's how I feel.
Okay.
I love this committee, but thank you very much for asking.
I wouldn't mind nominating Lynn Betteridge. So,
I would second that.
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, any other nominations? The floor is still open for nominations. Vice Chair. Okay, Lynn Betteridge's name is up for a vote. All those in favor of Lynn being the Vice Chair of the Park and Rec Advisory Committee indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, Lynn, congratulations.
Thank you.
So let it be known, we've got a new chair and vice chair for this calendar year, 2012, Mike
Yay.
Mitchell and Lynn Betteridge. You want to swap chairs?
I don't think we have to.
No, we don't.
I don't think 2 feet's going to make any difference. And the gavel's not here anyway.
I was wondering where the gavel was.
Doesn't matter.
I don't know where it is.
Okay. So let me just say thank you to Brian for your 2 years as chair. You've done a terrific job. Left big shoes to fill. Thank you.
Mike.
Okay, moving on. Approval of minutes from our last meeting, December 1st. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Any additions or corrections? Okay, a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those approve say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Yeah, this is easy. Okay, next is citizen comments on issues and items not on the agenda, and I don't see anyone present. So we will move right on to general business, and our first point is a presentation from Kathy Wiseman on update on the Pioneer Adult Community Center.
I'll just give you a quick intro for those of you. I think hopefully most of you know Kathy either by name or face. And if you don't, Kathy's our supervisor at the Pioneer Center. Does a great job with all the great programs and the facility things that we do there. She's going to tell you all about that. This is Kathy did this last year for those of you that were on the board last year at the same time or around the same time, I think. When were you here last, Kathy? Was that a year ago? Okay, it's been a while. So, and I think you recall at the last PRAC meeting, Rochelle Parsh did a similar report to you for the kind of an annual update report on what was going on with the pool and the recreation stuff. So again, this is just keeping with that. We're going to try to have Kathy and Rochelle give you a report, at least once a year and maybe more as needed. But and she's got a visual display for you, so you can switch your monitors here.
Which way? This way?
I thought, oh,
Our screen.
yes.
Switch.
You don't have a switch.
There we go.
Is it on your screens?
Yes, it is. Yes. Yeah.
There it is.
Master plans. Park and Rec master plans. I'm not doing that. Trail master plans.
Yeah.
We're going by
Yay, Pioneer Center.
Sounds even. Wow, an audio presentation.
Which one is that?
Yeah,
and
it's not.
What's the difference between master
There,
plan?
but it looks like it's
Master
okay.
plans, other master plans.
My IT skills are not great, but I found a sound and noise function on the PowerPoint, so you're going to be subjected to some interesting new PowerPoint components. So this is the Pioneer Center, and it truly is a community effort. Previously, it was a senior center, and we don't call it that anymore. We call it a community center. And how we like to think of it is a place where there are no strangers, only friends you have yet to meet. So I'll give you a little history about the Pioneer Center and where we've been, where we're at today, and where we're going. On the corner, you can see the Carnegie in the background. There's a little memorial square, and it's actually kind of interesting. It's got some history, but in a nutshell, in 1954, Francis and Hilda Jacobs, in memory of their father and brother, started a fund devoted to educational and charitable purposes. And what they did is they purchased the entire block that the Pioneer Center sits on and donated it to the city in 1974 to be forever used for recreational, educational, and civic purposes for the residents of the city. So it was just a blank slate. So we I love my sounds. So the senior center was built then just a few years later in 1979 because the senior center was originally housed in the basement of the Pulp and Paper Workers Union Hall, and it was not adequate space. So there was some funding that was provided by some HUD discretionary block grants, some urban county grants. The city kicked in some cash, and the seniors of the area that wanted a senior center did some fundraising, and that's how the center was originally built. So what are we today? Well, we are a multi-purpose facility, and my motto is pretty basic in that we'll do anything at the senior center that's not illegal, and even then I kind of push the envelope, as long as Scott doesn't know. But we provide services to people in the community that are 21 and older, and seniors and people with disabilities. And we are really still senior focused, but we have a lot of classes and events that are not senior focused. So the core components of the center are providing nutritious meals to the community. One of those big items that you see pretty regularly are the Meals on Wheels. That's a big program that we have. We have one of the largest programs in Clackamas County. We have 116 homebound persons that get a hot meal every day, and then 2 frozen meals for the weekends. And they also get pet food for dogs and cats if they need it. That's our FIDO program, and we deliver those and meals every other week. We also have a sit-down meal at the center 5 days a week for seniors and low-income clients and disabled clients. We have transportation. If you're ever by the center, there's 5 big buses over there, and we use those buses for door-to-door service 5 days a week for Oregon City and West Lynn. We provide Meals on Wheels to West Lynn and Oregon City as well. And that door-to-door service, the seniors and disabled folks in our community love that service. We are full every day and could probably have another full-time staff person providing transportation. It's becoming a really big issue. But transportation is very expensive. And the county, we're all struggling with how to fix this need, and it's only going to get more necessary as people age. So that one, you know, we're always working on. Social services, we have a client services person that works there, and she provides things like hooking people up with attorneys for some legal assistance, low-income legal assistance, energy assistance, making sure folks don't get their power turned off, especially if they're disabled, caregiver support, helping folks get through that Medicaid and or Medicare, Social Security application process, just about anything. It is the most random position to have. People will come in and need shoes, and then they will come in and need to file bankruptcy, and everything in between. You just never know. And then we do recreational and educational programs, art classes, exercise classes, seminars. They play pool, poker, bingo. We have a gambling license there because they play quarter poker and quarter bingo. So I have to fill out a gambling license every year. We're one of the few that have that. So here's a picture of our commercial kitchen and fixing meals at the Pioneer Center, and we serve about 43,000 meals out of that kitchen every year for the Meals on Wheels, and almost 12,000 at the sit-down site, which is a lot.
We had some recent upgrades to that kitchen too, didn't we?
Yes, over the last few years, we've had a lot of upgrades.
Yeah.
Significant upgrades. But we can't hear me? We use a lot of volunteers, and last year we logged almost 15,000 hours of volunteer hours. And volunteers do everything at that center. And if you paid them, which the county standard is if you paid an equivalent salary, it's close to $150,000 a year that we're not having to pay someone to provide those services. So we count on our volunteers a lot. Here's our social service person providing some support. And Lynn knows this firsthand. Lynn is one of our volunteers that helps us during Christmas with fill a stocking. And she gets a group of ladies over there and do an amazing job to make sure the stockings are appropriate for our clients. And we just, anything and everything you could possibly imagine that this community needs, they come in and will at least find them a place to go that can get them the services they need. Here's one of our low-impact weight classes, and our classes are full. When the class schedule opens and people show up to sign up, it's full within 10 minutes. So the Pioneer Center is heavily used in classes, transportation, just about everything. We're really busting at the seams. We've got our weight room that's heavily used for folks that are 50 and older. One of our big recreation events is every Wednesday we have a ballroom dance. They love that. Ooh, more exciting noise. And so The way that we've been able to maintain and keep those services functioning at that high level is when I came to the city about 8 years ago, the city was really looking at some pretty serious issues, bankruptcy possibly if we didn't get that fire annexation passed. And that was also at the same time the Pioneer Center was literally falling apart. Everything was falling apart. And we sat down, the staff and I sat down and, well, you know, this is kind of survival. If we don't fix this, we're out of a job. And the people that we serve are out of a center that provides terrific services. So we just started asking local businesses for money. BCT has been a huge support to us. That's Beaver Creek Telephone. They've done a lot of fundraisers for us. Hagen's, Willamette Falls Hospital, Kaiser, all kinds of businesses. Rotary Club, the Lions Club, Kiwanis. We've sold Christmas wreaths, hot dogs, you name it, we've sold it. So we have benefited, the Pioneer Center has benefited from almost $125,000 for equipment and repairs, and that was the question about the kitchen. We've replaced every piece of equipment in there except one freezer, which we're doing this March. That's the last 30-year-old piece of equipment left. Knock on wood. And to date, we've raised about almost $200,000 and $18,000 in grants. So that's why that center looks as good as it does, is we've just taken that on and we were dedicated to making it happen. So these are the things that we've purchased. And the little bricks in the corner, that's because we've almost built the senior center, rebuilt it brick by brick. And it's been a lot, but it looks fabulous. So if you haven't been over lately, please stop by. We've got brand new buses that work great. When I came, you could see there was a hole in the floor of the bus. You could see the road underneath. It was not good. Everything's all fixed up, safe. It's a really nice place for our seniors to come. There's one of the pieces of equipment that was taken out. It was a steam oven that we use every day. We can't function without it. That was huge for us. And that old steam oven served almost 1 million meals. So we get really good use out of our equipment. So here's a picture of our facility upgrade. The blue is what was yucky. That's a technical term. We had duct tape on the carpet because it was torn and it wasn't safe. Those blue chairs, when we got rid of them, were just, they were falling apart. The tables had been purchased at garage sales. It was so dirty and so yucky. And then on the right-hand side is new furniture, new carpet, new paint, new chair rails, new everything. And we have Denise Kai to thank for that because she picked those colors. And I cried a lot because I thought they were kind of scary. I was afraid of the colors. But they turned out fabulous. She did a great job. And then we did a community garden outside. You can see the unused space. It was just nothing. And now we've got a lovely garden. And that, too, Denise was really behind that. And one of the Eagle Scouts, Larry, helped us find an Eagle Scout who did the screening and the steps and just did a terrific job. And that produce that we grow there goes right back into our kitchen for our meal program. So it's terrific.
Did that scout do the boxes too?
Those we purchased.
Oh, okay, all right.
We purchased with donation funds. It turned out really great. We had a great garden last year. So here we are today with Magic Sound. We have one of the largest Meals on Wheels routes, which means our drivers have to drive really far. They go out to Beaver Creek quite a ways and West Lynn. We also serve one of the largest noontime meals in the county. And we have one of the largest physical transportation areas to cover, as well as our ridership that we serve. We're open 35 hours a week, and we generally have 8,500 to 10,000 customer requests in a month. And that's about 60 to 70 folks that we're serving an hour. Wow. Staffing levels in 96 were almost 8 FTE, serving 5,000 people a month. So our staffing hours were cut And we're a little bit higher than that 6.8 hours, but we have nearly double the demand of service. So you can see the 2003 versus 2011, and the percent increase on recreation has gone through the roof. That number does not even include some of the other recreation events that our staff participate in. So we're holding the fire line, and we're anticipating that demand will just continue to rise. So where are we going? Well, the baby boomers are the fastest growing population and the largest aging population in history. That's 76 million people. So every 7 seconds, someone turns 62. In the next 20 years, 90-year-olds will be one of the fastest growing populations. And if you think about that alone, what that's going to mean for public works, the parks, everything, it's a huge impact just in them driving. If you just take one thing, 90-year-olds driving, and how they're going to deal with street signs and safety issues. It's for me, it's a little mind-boggling. And their median net worth of seniors is currently $170,000, so they'll be looking for free and low-cost services and lots of accommodations, because that's what the baby boomers have done. They've always looked for service. They're big service impact folks. So you think large print. Well, think about large print on all your street signs and what the cost of cities, what that will be to a city. And baby boomers are not going to stand for not having it happen. They're going to be very active politically and active on boards. So it's going to be a really interesting time for the next 20 years. Oh, it was a little sound. So it's a little bit of a concern for planning for future recreation services, which is where you folks come in. Baby boomers have saved not a lot of money. So 50% have saved less than $10,000 for retirement. And of that 50%, 39% have saved less than $1,000. So they're really going to be considering Social Security their main source of income. But remember, they are a healthy group of seniors, but they don't have a lot of money. Half of the folks that filed bankruptcies in 2007 were baby boomers.
Wow.
So they're going to have to work longer, which is going to impact our volunteerism. And due to the disintegration of multi-generational families, they're going to be hanging out there pretty much on their own. They're going to seek more community contact services. And if you're wondering how that's going to impact places like the Pioneer Center, pools, libraries, and parks, they're going to need transportation, social services, meals, home support. And those sites, those community sites, are going to be accessed like never before. That's my prediction, just based on the behavior of that current population. So what does that mean? Well, those are the core services of the Pioneer Center. But wait, there's more. You don't have a recreation manager in this city, and most cities of comparable size do, as Scott can tell you. So you have managers that provide recreation. So I run the Pioneer Center, Rochelle runs the pool, Larry runs the parks and maintenance program. But if you want recreation in this city, we're the folks that put that on for you. So what do? Well, Pioneer Center runs the daddy-daughter dinner dance. There's Scott.
That's a few years ago.
It was a few years ago. This is a great event. Those kids love that event. The Pioneer Center co-sponsors art shows with the Three Rivers Art Guild, and that's Nancy Kay shopping at our art show. We have concerts in the park that we help out with. Well, mostly not helping, but...
What was that event?
That is, well, we sell Italian sodas to fundraise, and then we do the really technical things at the concerts, like pick up dog poop and chase the kids off the trees. That's the boots on the ground stuff that we do. We participate in the Spirits of Oregon City, which is, it's a mobile theater event, and Larry helps us out tremendously with that event. It's a tour of the museums and the Pioneer Cemetery. There are actors that are in period costume, reenacting events from 18 up, whatever. It's a big production, and I always get stuck being the widow out in the cemetery being wet and cold for 10 hours. We take people on recreational trips, and Scott always tells me I can't take them to hookah bars or tattoo parlors. So here we are at a tattoo smoke shop with a couple of the locals that, were willing to take a picture with us. We do a big, and that's Steve Little, who works for Larry. He's our Santa, but we do a big Christmas push every year. We do fill a stocking. We get food baskets to people. We have a big Christmas program, and it's just Christmas for a month at the Pioneer Center. Here's a picture of Claire. This year we did a parlor tour in the community with the Heritage Committee, and it's a really fairly complex event where local homeowners open their homes and decorate them, and we had actors in period costume telling stories, and the museums were open. So that was fairly complex. And here they're stringing popcorn because that's what you do at that time. Here is an event that we co-sponsored with the Lions Club. And this is a celebration of sight and sound. They do a lot of work for visually impaired folks, and we support them, and they come and support the Senior Center considerably with volunteer time and events. And then we are co-sponsoring a ghost conference in March, which people are coming all over the nation for this. Like I said, we'll do anything that's not illegal. So that gives you a flavor of the events in addition to the Pioneer Center being the Pioneer Center. So who does all this? It's the staff who blow it up. So I've got 2 bus drivers, and I've got 5 ladies, and only 2 of those ladies are full-time. The rest are part-time. And we are staffed 50% less than comparable sites. So Oregon City is getting a real deal with these folks. They are hardworking, extremely dedicated, and wonderful folks to work with. I really appreciate them. So how do we do it? Well, we can't do it with 7 staff, obviously. So we partner with a lot of folks in the community to bring this level of events and service to the community. One of those is FIDO, which is Friends Involved in Dog Outreach, and they co-sponsor sending animal food out with our Meals on Wheels, and we sent out almost 1,400 pounds of food annually, dog and cat food. And then we've got volunteers that work a ton of hours getting meals out and helping us with our reception duties, or, anything we need. So the Lions Club, I thought it would be kind of nice. I mean, we really couldn't do this without folks like the Lions Club. So I thought it'd be nice to show you a little video about the Lions Club. This is the cutest video. This is my rap video, Marty. So let's see if it works. What's it doing, Scott?
Minimize that.
Go all the way down.
Which
The
one?
Chrome tab.
That right there, yeah, hit that.
Oh, there we go. How do you do that?
Hold on.
Click in the picture. And hit full screen.
You're so cute.
There you go.
These guys are due.
Can you guys hear it?
Pacemaker.
Yellow vest.
Well, you might see me cruising in my old folks' ride. Niggas there's a guy inside. You thinking I'm a phony shuffleboarding old time, but I'm a Lions Club member and a real good rhymer. You know I dress to impress, fly as I can be. Wear my yellow vest whenever doing good deeds. I might kick it in the park and over plant trees. Respecting eyeglasses and the Kenny C. Lions Club, no time for rest. Lions Club, we be rocking the fest. Lions Club, straight up we're doing more. Lions Club, let me hear you roar. Come on, pulling in my driveway, I might look pretty lame, but I'm a Mac Daddy neighbor, volunteering is my game. I can bend a broken sump pump, know how to dig a stump, rubbing cheers in my hand, I'll make a rhododendron drum. See, I got skills to amaze, hold on, I'm gonna raise. You got a dry turkey sandwich, I'm mayonnaise. Oh, yeah, I'm a million young stubborn cheers. Lions Club, no time for rest. Lions Club, still rocking the vest. Lions Club, feeling throbbing to the core. Lions Club, back up, we're gonna roar. If rap is what it takes to get a message out, then I put my guns in motion, let my words be flowing. You got a flag football team, I start coaching. Yeah, flag football. You see, I'm more than a guy out selling raffle tickets. I'll be the hungry of the helpless, hell the selfish way to stick it. That's why I'm fumbling my Lions Club chest. Now it's your turn to put on a yellow vest. Yeah, what up, Lion?
That's great.
I like the wee dog.
Yeah.
They're all terrific.
So that is that. And I can't say enough about the Lions Club. They are terrific here. They've got a really active group in Oregon City. And after I saw this, of course, I want a Pioneer Center rap video. So if you have any questions,
In case you didn't see that, it's, well, you might see me cruising in my old folks ride. Blinker's been on since I got inside.
Shoot.
yeah, the words are hilarious. They're super cute. I mean, that's a rap video you can watch over and over.
You think
That
I'm a
is-
bogey.
That is very cute. Any questions for Kathy?
I don't know. I work for the fire department, and I know a number of times Meals on Wheels have called us because they are the first ones to discover something's not right with somebody. So they're definite help to the shut-ins of the community. Provide some life-saving support there.
Well, and not only do they get, that's usually the one meal they get, hot meal for the day, but it's a lot of times the only physical contact they have with other people. So it's really important. And that's why the FIDO information that came to us, people were feeding half of their meal to their animals. Their animals are their family. So it was really important that we took that on. We're happy to do it.
Well, you and your crew and your volunteers do a tremendous job with way low staffing levels and not enough money in it. I felt the same way after we heard the presentation on the aquatic center. How in this community we've got people who are able to do so much with so little. It's really, really appreciated. You guys do a tremendous job.
Thank you. This community gets a lot for its money, and so we're happy to do it. We love our community, and for the most part, I can say 99% of the people that use our services realize that and are very grateful. So we're really happy to do it.
I guess the one question I have is unscientific, but do we meet 100% of the need that's out there, or do we have to turn people away? I mean,
In the 8 years that I've been there, we've only had to turn one person away. And he wanted us, his wife had Alzheimer's disease, and she'd just written checks to various scam type things and had basically bankrupted them. And he came and he wanted us to write a check for $40,000 so that he could, keep his home. And obviously we couldn't do that. But we hooked him up with legal aid and all sorts of other services, and getting her into a long-term care facility, was really important. So we follow people up and try and get them at least stabilized. And we don't want anybody leaving and thinking, well, I have no options. And if we can't serve them, well, then we call Clackamas County and we sort of triage it until we can figure out, what we can do to actually find some services. And services have been cut. I mean, don't kid yourself. Back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, when the Gray Panthers were very active, there were a lot more services. I mean, Lynn worked for years as a case manager in Multnomah County, and she can tell you services have been profoundly cut, which is devastating because those of us that are in the boomer generation, we're the biggest group of aging folks, and there aren't the services there that there used to be. So the lesson is be really nice to your kids. Because they're probably going to have to take care of you.
Well, that'd be safe or not, man.
Any other questions? Nope.
Anything else?
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy.
guys.
Great job.
Thank you.
That was entertaining.
That was very entertaining. Thank you.
Well, I didn't want you guys to fall asleep.
Next on the agenda is the dog park. I don't have a lot to report. I've got one of these for everybody. At our last meeting, we talked about the next step being to start to narrow down the list of possible sites. And what I've done, put together what I think are the criteria that we're going to need to look at to evaluate these sites. And I don't want to take a lot of time tonight, but if you could just glance at this and see if there's something that I may have forgotten here. We've got to look at the available space. Is it a central location that people will be able to get to? What the impact is going to be on the immediate neighbors? The parking issue? How much is it going to cost to develop? And ownership of the site. And I'm looking for any other things that I didn't think of. And what I'd like to do is, with whatever additions you have to these criteria tonight, I'll put together like a little scorecard with these factors and all of the possible sites that have been brought up at this group and with a couple of meetings that we've had of the Friends group, and try to put a little score on these sites and see if something bubbles, one or two or three bubble up to the top. So tonight, if there's any additions to this list that I haven't thought of, I'd like to get those tonight, and then I'll send you all an email, hopefully in the next week, and maybe you could have a little homework and rank these sites. So I'll also provide you with a list of the sites that we've talked about. Does that process make sense? Mm-hmm. And Larry, I really would appreciate your opinion because I know you're boots on the ground in almost all these places that we've talked about. So, and it's going to have a big impact on you and your team. So, unless there's anything else on dog parks, that's all I have tonight.
One question on
Yeah.
on what you have here is, like in cost of development and impact to the neighbors. You're talking about like runoff, and you have all that. You want more items, or
yeah, I'm looking for more items. If there's things that we need to be considering that I didn't think of, that's what I'm looking for right now. And obviously, like cost, you're not going to know how much, but right, based on what you know is already there, we can kind of think, okay, this one, for instance, Glen Oak is blackberry bushes. That's obviously going to cost a lot more money to develop than a space in a park that we already have that's developed to some degree. So just kind of rank them is what I'm hoping to get to, not be able to put numbers on any of it as far as what.
one of the things I was looking at too is I think that you might want to do some research on dog parks and what's some of the criteria of it. You got runoff, you've got noise.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that probably need to be considered. And I don't know the whole list because I'm not sure what it is, but that's one thing you might want to do is just actually go find out, what a city has done to create a dog park and some of the stuff.
And Patrick has done a lot of research on that. We do have a fair amount of information on that.
Yeah, there's tons of published works. Now, I'm not seeing what I haven't seen in my research was the runoff and the science behind that. So I need to dig further. Not that it's not there. I'm sure there's lots of stuff on it, but most of the research I've done has been impacts on neighborhoods, how neighborhoods started and created programs, and then locations, whether they be kind of really close and and where they would sit, but they didn't really get into the runoff. But I need to look that up myself, so I'll help
Yeah, I
I'll
just
help with that.
Thinking about hidden costs that, I mean, you think you just throw up some fences and, there's probably some other stuff that, I mean, you really have to.
Yeah. Well, there's, like we were saying, there's just a list of different groups, very reputable groups that have put together some gorgeous pieces of, or gorgeous parks, and they've really thought it out thoroughly. And we can easily put something together that has been tried and,
I think the
in
biggest
practice.
hidden cost is maintenance cost.
Yeah.
I think that's what's not factored into the dog parks.
Right.
It always comes back to is, if the site isn't built correctly, the maintenance costs can be tremendous. Rebuilding the site, if it's not large enough, they can just completely destroy the site, and then you have to close it and then try to refurbish it. So it's the hidden costs. The upfront cost, I think this is a really good start. And so here's your upfront cost, but it's that maintenance issue. That's going to be kind of what the tail wagging the dog there.
Nice pun. Okay, good. Yeah, for sure. You're right. Because I've been in some that, not here, obviously, but in other cities that have not been properly maintained, and it's just a mess.
You don't want to go to them.
No.
You don't
No.
want to go to them.
Okay, anything else on that topic? I will be sending you an email, give you a little homework. Moving on to pocket parks. And that,
I can give you a little update here, at least to start the discussion. At your last meeting, we reported that the subcommittee, which Brian and Larry and I had met prior to that last meeting and talked about kind of narrowing down the potential list of sites that we would consider for disposal or sale or whatever. We reported that at the December meeting. One of the questions that came up was, could we put together a maintenance cost estimate, an annual maintenance cost on each of those sites? And I emailed that around to you. You may have received that, but I brought some hard copies of that in case. Make sure I've got one of these. I made some copies in case you don't have that. I didn't attach it to your agenda, so I don't think it's on your screens or anything. So if you wanted to look at that. So the committee had requested those cost estimates, and essentially for all the sites that we have on that potential list for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sites, we've got a ballpark of a little over $10,000 a year in our maintenance costs.
and that would be out of a maintenance budget of how much?
Roughly about $500,000. That's a pretty rough estimate, but I have to make sure I'm not right. That's including the cemetery rates. Yeah.
This is a 6-month report, then? Is that right? Or is it a 1 month?
1 year.
Well, I see. Thank you.
Oh, it does say 7. Yeah, no,
It's
it's
a
a
1
1 year. Yeah, it's a fiscal year, so that's why it looked kind of funny there.
This is as closely, as accurate as I can track. Some of the times, the crew members don't report their hours accurately. I would say this is on the low end, but this is what I can report.
Their hours at each site. We're not talking about like pay sheets or something like that. Yes, sure. We know what we're talking about there. So quite frankly, it's probably, now that we've kind of narrowed the list of potential sites down, and then really talk about the maintenance impact. It's not as probably quite as significant an impact as maybe I would have predicted it would be. Although there's, beyond just the dollars, there is the factor of just the staff time dealing with it, Larry's time, and and what's the recreational value or what's the community value for those sites. So it's not, it doesn't jump out at me, but that isn't a reason that we wouldn't necessarily continue that conversation. So that's sort of where we're at right now, and I don't know where we want to take the conversation from here. I don't know if you've got, Brian, if you have anything to add from what our conversations or what have you. I don't have a specific recommendation for you, other than just here's some information. I guess we can kind of process that a little bit more. I think we're going to be talking about an update on the parks utility fee discussion in a little bit, and it might kind of tie to that conversation somewhat, because I know we'd sort of tried to link these two items together in terms of just thinking of them being closely related to each other. So we might have a little bit of, that might trigger a little bit more discussion. In fact, if you want me to, I could jump down to E right now and give you the update on that to tie it into this. I'm putting the agenda together. I probably should have done that anyway. Is that all right with you guys? So what I need to tell you about the parks maintenance utility fee, I had let you know previously that this was on the agenda for our city commission, their annual goal-setting work retreat that they hold every year was last Saturday. And this was an item that was on there. So what our commission does every year, if you're not aware of this, they take at least one full day, and they basically try to set their goals. They review their last year's goals and set their goals for the coming work year, so that they can basically put into place what their work plan is for the year, to be able to direct staff and direct funds and that type of thing. So to give you the background on what I'm going to tell you about the utility fee, you have to understand they're talking, for the whole city, kind of in a global, holistic picture, how this item will affect this item, and this work plan will affect that work plan. And essentially with the maintenance utility fee, I gave them, and I sent you all the analysis report that we had done that gave us kind of a framework for the discussion. It's the memo from, is it FCS? Which is,
Food and Talent and Westland.
I think you got that. Yeah, the FCF's group memo. It should be attached to your agenda stuff. So, and I think I emailed that to you as well. And I would suggest, if you haven't done so, take the opportunity to read through that at some point. I think it's very interesting, and it's got some information in there. We did a little update on our deferred maintenance, and our rough estimate is that we've got about $1.2 million in deferred maintenance in our city park system, which is very significant. Those are items that we haven't kept up with, that we haven't been able to address, and that we frankly don't have a good funding source to deal with right at the time being. So that plays into all that. But at any rate, that memo gives an outline of what a park utility fee would look like, some fee ranges potentially, how much it could generate. I won't get into the specific details of that unless you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer that. But what the commission decided at their work retreat is that they would like to they want to hold off on doing a park utility fee study any further at the current time, and the reason for that is they have a few other items that have potential financial implications to our citizens. And it's kind of how many things can you put in people's utility bills or their property tax bills or whatever the case may be. And so because of that, they want to hold off on dealing with the parks utility fee, just because it's how many things can we do. So there's essentially the two big items that will have that type of impact are, I don't know if you've heard of the water rates issue that has been being discussed by our commission, but there is a provision that was put into our city charter a number of years ago in the 90s, I don't remember the exact date, that said once our water bonds were paid off, the water rates that the city charges would roll back to the rates before the bond. So basically we're going to take the water rates back about 20 years. And that was put into our charter by a vote of the citizens. So it would take a vote of the citizens to undo that. That's going to happen by 2014. 2014, I believe. I'm not the expert on this part of that, somebody else's operations, but I'm just kind of speaking in generalities. I think it's 2014 that will occur. So the commission has set a goal that they would like to address that situation, because what it does is potentially creates a very large gap in our ability to provide the water service. It puts a financial gap because the rates wouldn't keep up with our costs, and it's problematic. So the commission is going to put a lot of time into studying that, and is going to look at potentially, I would say likely, putting it out to the voters to repeal that provision and somehow update it. I don't know whether they're going to repeal it entirely or partially or what, but it would be a question to the voters to consider. So that does have an impact on some fees that people pay. And then the other big item is trying to construct the library. We talked about that in our interview meeting a little while ago. The city has the funding source to pay for the debt on building a library, but we have this interesting provision in our city charter that says even if we have a dedicated revenue source to pay for bonds. So in other words, what has to happen is, these are very hypothetical numbers, but I'm just going to make up a number. Let's say it's $10 million to build a library. We don't have that in cash, but we do have, because of our library, the library district that was passed a couple or a few years ago at this point, there's a stream of income, and out of that income, there's a portion that is dedicated that the city has determined we can pay for the ability to borrow, the bonds, which is a low interest government rate, essentially, to borrow that money, but we have a dedicated revenue source. Even though we have the revenue source, the city is required by our own codes, our own charter, to go to the voters and say, may we do this? And the voters have to either say yes or no. So it's not an increase in property tax. It's not an increase in any fee. It just allows the city to do that. The point of that is that it's a confusing message, and it's going to be difficult to tell that story, but that's something that's very important to the city. The commission has set forth that goal. You heard our mayor say earlier that we have a revenue source to do this. There's some process to do that. So these two big, quote unquote, money issues that are going to be coming forward to the voters, and for our community to consider, and for our commission to get its minds around, was, I think, it was as much as they wanted to bite off at this point. So what they did basically was said, we'd like to defer the utility fee for further work until after we address those two major issues. I know that's kind of a long explanation, but I wanted to give you the full understanding of that, because I know that we've talked pretty substantially about the utility fee, and sort of now we're going to put the brakes on it. Now, the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, you're welcome to do what you wish with that information. You're welcome to communicate a different message to the commissioner or what have you. That's our city commission's direction. My sense is that we're probably not going to change that direction, but I just share this all with you for your information and any further discussion that you might want to have. So I was pulling that back in, I guess, to the Pocket Park discussion a little bit, just to kind of bring this whole thing full circle on the two items, because I know, especially Brian, I know you'd been a real advocate for talking about those two things together going forward, as we talk about the pocket parks, and the education would be there also with this potential utility fee, because I think they do go hand in hand. That we're deficient in our ability to fund and to manage all of what we have to deal with our parks, and we're also talking about potentially letting some of those open spaces go, and here are the reasons for that. So I'm gonna stop and let you process all of that. That's a lot, but I guess what I'd be interested in at this point is what the committee's thoughts are on those items. the pocket parks, whether we want to continue to work on that or whether we don't, or where you want to go with that. And then obviously any comments or further questions or discussion about the utility fee.
I think we should table the pocket parks for now. It's not too much of a headache if we're going to try to go for fee analysis. I mean, on the fee again and trying to get that. So we have to get that. That's my opinion on the parks. I mean, it's probably more of a headache to try to get the voters, because we have to go through vote to get rid of them.
Right. Thank you for.
So, to me, it's like, it's not killing Larry anytime early.
Marty, you just said something that I meant to put into the conversation, is that, and that's the kind of the big whole picture of the whole city, what's going on and what we're taking to our citizens and so forth, is if we were going to do something to put forth the question, it would be another ballot item, another voter item. So I don't know that the political environment would pallet too many things coming forward to the citizens' ballots at once. So again, that just recognize that the commission has stated very clearly what their priorities are on that, is the water rates rollback issue and then getting the library building thing solved. So at the in the next year or so, I don't know that it would be realistic to say that we could put a pocket park item on the ballot. That doesn't mean that we can't continue to think about it and pursue it, and you have to look at these things, timing wise, strategically, in terms of if things, putting things on the ballot is a pretty significant step, and so yeah.
Looking at those maintenance numbers, it looks to me, the whole group of them is not a huge burden. $10,000 is $10,000, but in the big scheme of things, it's not a lot, and any one or two of them is, a really small amount. So I guess what my thought would be is that we're still agreeable to the idea that some of these it would be good to dispose of, but we maybe need to wait until and hope that a community group or a developer or somebody comes to the city and says, hey, I'd like to buy this, or we'd like to take over it, or whatever. So we know as a group that we would still like to pursue the idea of getting rid of it, but let the buyer or the interested party kind of come to us instead of spending a lot of time when maybe there isn't any value until somebody decides they do want it.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Or I think you said maybe in there, Mike, a neighborhood association or a homeowners association or something would be interested,
right?
Possibly, but yeah, I think that's an excellent thought.
Is there anything that says neighborhood can't take care of the maintenance? Of any of them?
No, we work with volunteer groups. It depends on what it depends on what the arrangement would be, whether it be a volunteer group, or I think a little bit of what I was saying there just now, and that we've talked about it when we brought this up before, is we could potentially give a maybe lease for 100 years, or give the park to a homeowners association if they were willing to take it on and say, if you want this to be more than it is, because right now some of these are just little spots of grass or whatever. If a neighborhood wanted to really make something out of it, because these are not really priority sites for the city that we're going to make any major investments in, obviously. But maybe a neighborhood said, hey, we'd really love to put in a playground or a whatever, and we could at that point say, then we could figure out the mechanism that they could take it over. I don't know what that would be exactly, but that'd be, we'd be open to discuss that.
I think that you asked about next steps. I think that is one of the next steps, conceivably, possibly. And it's not that big of a burden. It's $10,000. When you add it all up, and we're talking about bottom lines and a lot of different line items and things like that. So I'm trying to balance dog park, which has got to be more than $10,000 a year to maintain the hidden costs, so-called the hidden costs. But still, that's something else we can balance out as we talk about the disposition of these parks and that's a way to bring it to the voter. You can say, you know, we hear that you really want, we hear it that you want a dog park in Oregon City, and then you can link that to disposing of the disposition of certain other properties, which will generate X amount of revenue per year, which will help us maintain that dog park. And then when we ramp up discussion about the utility fee, I mean, that's just something else we can. So I mean, I think we need to keep. Not. I know you didn't mean table it, Marty, but I mean keep it. I think we move it to a different burner on the stove, a warmer. Yeah.
Center.
But yeah, you know, I still see things conceivably coming together and making sense to a voter who would say, yeah, we do want the dog park, and we, you know, and then you balance it, and you somehow write the ballot issue or the ballot. What do you call it? The measure. Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't think of the word. The measure in such a way.
I think you should be number 11 of our top 10.
Yeah.
10A.
But I really, I mean, the neighborhood associations, the CIC, I think, I agree completely that it's, and you know, I don't think Larry would say that it was a big burden either, but it's still, you know, money. Still,
Well,
it's
I think
still
even-
10 grand a year.
Even beyond the money, it's the hours. I mean, we only have
Right.
so much staff, and if they weren't there, maybe they can be doing better, some more maintenance somewhere else. I think that's the issue.
So right now, we don't really know what our neighborhood associations think about adopting a park, for instance, and we could find that out.
Well, in the past couple of years, we've actually been approached by homeowners associations trying to turn their
Okay.
parks over to us.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yeah, I was involved in once.
So,
yeah. That's an uphill battle. I think it's a good thing to definitely consider, but it is. Yeah, I mean we've had the opposite happen. So
Okay.
Yeah,
but we could
expensive for homeowners.
potentially.
Yeah.
We could potentially identify those sites on that list and say, okay, whatever neighborhood association they're in, we could put the message out to those neighborhoods and just say, this is the issue that we're looking at. We're trying to, kind of resolve this, put it forward to them.
Yeah, I guess I was just kind of balancing ownership and volunteer type thing. You know, like our folks that volunteer on the promenade. That's the way I was thinking. Not a neighborhood association taking it on and then hiring True Green to take care of it.
Right.
That wouldn't work.
One,
Or having to do it themselves. You know, doing it themselves is one thing, but yeah.
One other observation or comment I was thinking of is, I don't know that we've made this connection or not, but we should probably look at the list that we've developed for the potential sites on that pocket park list and compare that with our dog park site list and say, have we thought about that? Because the point I'm making is the pocket parks that we've thrown onto this list, what we're basically saying is we don't see a lot of recreational value for these properties right now, the way they're being used or underused. And if it was just kind of an open area, could it potentially be a dog park? I think there might be. I'd have to go back and look at the dog park list again. I don't know. If
none of these are bigger than a lot, so I would say not.
Yeah.
That's from my view.
Stafford, Hazelwood, Hardkey, Shenandoah,
These are all less than an acre.
Oak Tree Park.
Very small.
Mostly more or less than a quarter acre, 30. So you're talking very
pretty small. Yeah.
Pretty small.
big enough for a house, maybe.
We had prior conversations about, and you brought up these parks being sustainable in some way, and that perhaps the neighborhood associations might see some use, like say a neighborhood garden. You know, it's really a big thing now in a lot of metro areas of pieces, small pieces, this size type pieces of lots that are turned into organic gardens where the neighborhood shows up and literally buys a little plot to do some tomatoes in the summer kind of thing. You know, a very easy promo in our newsletter, or us approaching maybe as a group going to the neighborhood associations and putting it out there.
Great idea, and I've thought about it. I went and worked on some of that in Portland Parks, and I know that the idea, again, is really neat. And again, it sounds like it's benign to the city when it still takes, it'd probably take me more effort to maintain a community garden than it would a lot where you just come in and mow it, pick up a couple pieces of litter, and I'm gone. You still have the watering issue. You still have the maintenance issue. Typically, most people don't have rototillers, so a lot of maintenance, and gardens are high maintenance. If some of you have a garden, they're not low maintenance areas.
Yeah.
So that would fall back on the city again.
Or, you know, I think the way that would work is that the responsibility would divert, you know, nearly 100% of that burden of keeping those would have to fall onto the neighborhood group that would adopt it. And if it didn't,
That'd be a stipulation.
then it would just revert back to a bare piece of land again. So
It'd have to be a serious commitment.
exactly, we'd have to really
and
make it
resource.
We can't-
manpower to.
Yeah, we'd
pull it
have,
off.
you know, so that, I guess what I'm saying is, I agree with what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying.
Sure, and
both
I
is
see that.
We'd have to make it a very strong commitment level, and with the understanding that we can't maintain that higher level of
Right.
service.
Scott, there's a pretty thriving community garden situation at Clackamas Community College. I walk by it several times a week, and I believe it looks like they're expanding for this next spring and summer based on demand. I'm quite sure there's a rental involved. I think people rent the space, so that would be a little bit of income.
Right, the plot of land
Yeah,
is
they rent.
actually
Yeah,
rented.
they rent their plot
I don't.
for their garden. So if someone wants to take that on, and if someone on the committee is interested in that, contacting CCC, you could probably find out real quick how their program runs and what kind of money it does generate for them. Because I know it was completely full last year, and it looks to me like they're just about doubling the space that they're going to have to it for this next year. And I think I've heard that I believe there was a waiting list before, and that's why they're expanding. So if somebody wanted to make that call,
I can look into it. I'll start with the horticulture department.
yeah.
Because I've walked by it too, and I've noticed a lot more fences have gone up, which is interesting. So
Yeah.
better gardens.
Anything else on pocket parks or the maintenance utility fee?
I think I just wanted to add, Scott, will there be a new pamphlet that comes out for this year's goals?
Yes.
Well, the last page of the goals that were set for the 2011-2012 year talks about Goal 6 being maintaining fiscal health and long-term stability. Talks right up, first thing is the priority of the water rate rollback.
Yeah.
With a 2014 date. Fourth item down, parks maintenance utility fee, begin an 18-month process of exploration. So that possible measure could be submitted to a vote to the people after annexation pledge terminates. So it really feels as though this is not a large change in their focus, and I think that we personally, as a board member or advisory committee member, I don't have any problem supporting that they're trying to do what's sensitive and what's going to work in the community.
Yeah.
And it's consistent.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I hope I didn't either confuse that or over or under explain it, but that they didn't say they aren't interested at some point. It's just right now there's these other issues that we've got to deal with first,
Right.
and then we're going to try to get there eventually. They recognize the challenges, the problems, you know, the issues that we're trying to deal with limited resources. It's very clear, and I, as the department director, one of my biggest jobs is to advocate and make sure that the commission understands the situation that we're in whenever I get the opportunity to do that. So I certainly spoke to that again at this work session retreat last weekend. But it's like you said, Lynn. I think you said it really well. It's right at the top of the list, that water rate issue and some other things, and we're in the mix. But right now, there's some other priorities that they want to deal with. So.
Okay,
Sometimes things take a little time to get to them. So.
We'll move to item D, which is PrAC member reappointments and applicants. We interviewed 2 candidates earlier this evening. We have one 3-year term that is vacant, unless someone is aware of other vacancies coming up.
Well, I'm sorry to say, but I'm going to have to step down from my position here on the PrAC board due to some family issues that I need to take care of. So that would open up a spot for somebody, and there was 2 very qualified candidates that I saw in those interviews.
All right, well, we're sorry to hear that you have to do that, but obviously family has to come first, and
Yes.
we're all thinking of you, and we thank you for your service. Is that going to be
That will be
immediate?
effective immediately after this meeting.
Okay. All right, well, we thank you for your service, and sorry to see you have to do that, but again, family has to come
All right.
first.
I appreciate all the time here. I had a good time, and I know that the City of Oregon City is in good hands with the rest of this group here.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, so with 2 candidates and a 3-year opening, and how much is left on Steve's couple of years?
Through the end of 2013.
In 2013.
Almost
Do I have a motion or a recommendation from the group on what we propose to the mayor for his appointment? Based on the candidates that we saw.
I would recommend that I would propose that we recommend Lisa Normand for the first position, the 3-year position, and that we recommend Dr. Burns for the second position, being Steve's position.
Okay, any comments from the group on that recommendation?
That's a very good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
great.
So, all in favor of making that recommendation to the mayor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Scott, so we're proposing recommending Lisa for the 3-year term and recommending Bob Burns for the balance of Steve's term.
I will forward those recommendations on, and should be on commission agenda for action in the near future. And then also I put on that agenda that it's PrAC member reappointment. So just to announce that Mike and Don were both reappointed to a second 3-year term. And did you receive a letter or something to that effect from the mayor?
Yep.
Great. So that reappointment did happen since the last time that we've met.
Okay, so we'll move on to point F, follow up on Citizen Involvement Council proposals from last meeting, which was the veterans fee waiver for the RV park and or the RV lake as it is this week.
There's fish in the park at least. You can go down and fish right in the park if you want.
Yeah, there you go.
I haven't been down there. Is it pretty flooded?
Oh, totally. Well, the park's closed.
Completely closed.
Completely closed, and the RV park is completely underwater. You could drive in on the main access road, but you're in water real soon. It's way.
There wasn't any trouble. Everyone got out of there okay, and no one who couldn't move or budge or something.
I came in Saturday morning and moved my host out right before it crested, and the water came within probably 2 feet of his mobile home or motor home up on high water, but he wouldn't have had access out of the park. And that's what I was more worried about, is emergency access. If anything happened, he couldn't get in or out.
Right.
So I moved him off site Saturday morning.
There's a great object lesson there for the restrictions when we think about upgrading the RV park. There's a good lesson in what you can and can't do on that site.
Well, that's, the site's been there for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. And I go down the site, I watch the water levels, and I go down the site with the crew, electricians, We removed the electrical. We have PG shut down the transformers, and we clean it up. We put it all back together, and it's back to brand new again. It's not, it's kind of not a bad site for a park because you can go underwater, you do a little bit of cleanup, and you're back to normal.
Parks.
Yeah, because I mean the water seems to come up fast, but really you've got plenty of time.
Yeah.
If you're if
We
you're paying
know,
attention.
we watch from the weather services and so forth.
Right.
That we have very accurate predictions that say by Saturday it's going to be at
Right.
28 feet. And Larry knows exactly when the level is that we start seeing water come over the park, and so it's. I think we go through this about every other year on average. You know, sometimes a couple years in a row, and sometimes maybe not for a couple years. But this is part of the routine. But your point is well taken, that whatever we design has to be. We have to know that it's going to
Yeah,
flood every so
waterproof,
often.
Yeah.
And our parks by the way that they are actually pretty good facilities to get flooded. You can flood grass and certain landscaping and hardscape, and most of it is going to survive pretty well unless you have just a drastic event. But still, even with that, we do need to be thinking about that.
I think our last guests got a lot of their money's worth, though, watching that river become another river. It was incredible.
We should charge a lot.
Color and turbulence, yeah.
So update on veteran fee waiver and handicap fishing access.
Yeah, so at your last meeting, you had the two gentlemen came from the Citizens Involvement Council and made that pitch to you that we consider, again, just remind you that we consider a veterans fee waiver for the RV park. They referenced the state parks policy that it has a similar type of a waiver. And then they requested that we consider creating a handicapped access fishing point or facility at Clackamas Park, either on the Willamette or the Clackamas, and that I think they offered some assistance in developing the funds or what have you. I put this back on your agenda just because it was brought forward as a request and just to kind of follow up and see as a committee where you'd like to go with this. Just because of other priorities and other issues that have been going on the last several weeks since that meeting, I can just tell you from staff standpoint, we really haven't had a chance to sit down and think through these very much and address them. Something that we'll need to do because I think the CIC group will be looking for a response either from staff and or from the Parks Committee, and just in terms of we do or don't support these ideas, and if we do support them, we need to figure out how we're gonna move forward. The first one, the fee waiver, is more just of kind of a process issue. It's a policy decision that would need to be made. The way that would happen, if it was something you supported recommending to pursue further, is we would probably go back and do a little bit more research and look into the other agencies that do this and possibly develop draft some language that we could use, and then that would be a policy issue that would have to go through some procedural steps of getting approval, and you'd have to sign off on it, and then we'd probably take it to the commission for their approval as a resolution or something to include that. The second one is a little bit more tricky in that it actually involves development of some type of a facility. We'd have to kind of look at the whole vision for the park there, where that may or may not fit. I think it's a nice idea. It does have some challenges. There's the financial part of it to consider because it's would be building something, and we also, anytime we build something in the waterway area, we have to look at potential permitting issues, which can be a real challenge. You've heard us talking about putting in the new ramp at Sportcraft Boat Landing, taking like 3 years to get our federal Corps permit. Not saying that this would be at that same level or equivalent to that, but anytime you do something in the water, in the flood zone, it's a challenge. So that one is much more of an intensive kind of a proposition for us to consider. So
I guess let's just make sure we de-link these. They were brought up by the same gentleman, but we don't have to think about them as linked.
Good point.
It's the RV park and an additional issue as well. Although it may be close to the RV park, right? the handicap access fishing area does not have to be linked to the RV park. Am I?
Good, yeah.
I don't think it,
Good
yeah,
point.
there wasn't anything specific.
So, I think we should look into a policy change personally. That's my personal opinion. And that would
I think that's the
wouldn't be
consensus of the
unusual. I mean, because the state of Oregon already has that type of thing in place. So, I think we should pursue it.
Yeah, I think that's the consensus of the group, right?
I'd like more information, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we
All right.
can, I think maybe a first step back would be, at an upcoming meeting, we would try to do a little bit of research into the other, I think, again, reference state parks and at least that, if not other agencies, find out how they do that. I guess one of the questions would be, there's the positives of doing that are very obvious, and I do support the idea. The business part of me, the operational side, has to say, okay, how much of an impact does that create, either in the loss of revenue or in the impact to the site, where it would either way it'd be a revenue issue, because maybe folks that wouldn't be paying taking the spaces of folks that would be, and then not having the capacity to take. So revenue is what I'm talking about. That we need to maybe that'd be a question we'd ask state parks: is there a significant impact? And maybe the answer is no. It's it's not that big of a deal. Or it could be, yeah, we get a lot of that. We issue a lot of those waivers, and it's a X percent of the occupancy uses that. So we'd have to kind of think about then we could report back to you and say, this is what we found out, and it probably means a revenue impact of about this much. It might be something to think about as well. So
Also, it could be an administrative issue also. It's because we still have to, I do the RV revenue myself. So I go down and report daily, take in the cash, check in the vehicles and things like that. So that's going to take up a little bit more of my time, or whoever's time is down there, to verify that, in fact, is this a proper ID for it? So there's going to be another little layer. So there will be a little bit of time, administrative time, to make sure it's enforced and adhered to. I wouldn't think it'd be a real big deal, but we're adding another little hoop to jump through.
So we hear that you're saying that you're interested in pursuing that, and we'll take a look at what we can find with the information that's available with some other agencies, and we'll report that back to you, and we'll see where that goes. Does that work?
Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay.
That's good. And the other one, the handicapped access fishing, I think that's a lot more significant and something that's going to have to bubble up onto our goals. Probably. I mean, it's a great idea, but wow,
See that being expensive.
that is a big one. Yeah.
Big one.
I don't know if it's expensive. I think it'd be hard
No, I
to
think it
control.
would be.
I mean, how are you going to say, 14 kids get down there and start fishing, or
Right.
But
Yeah.
then you've got
There's
the
that as
permitting-
well.
The permitting process as well too,
Yeah.
right? Because you're actually, you've got a structure that's in or near the water,
And you've got to be able to get a ramp within ADA requirements down to a area that goes up and down with the tide and the time of the year. I think that the engineering would be pretty tough on something like that. I don't know.
If you're talking about a year-round on either the Clackamas or the Willamette, the problem is your water levels obviously vary from right now where the high was 29 feet and the low goes down to 9 feet. So you're looking at a 20-foot variance level. So obviously you're talking about, you've got to, if you want year-round, you're going to have a float out in the river.
it's got to be out there.
It's really hard on a river versus a lake.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's something we kind of need to table at this point and pursue the other one. Okay. Any other general business or new business? Okay. We'll move on to PrAC member reports. Marty?
nothing to report this.
Nothing for me either.
Nothing? Patrick.
Nada. Nothing,
quick?
nothing as well.
Just really quick, I bumped into one of our neighbors who lives right on the outskirts of Western Lynn Park, and he mentioned to me that I'm sorry I hadn't been out there since he mentioned this to me, but the light that's on his side of and we're talking about the new structure, the new snack bar / restroom structure. There's a light that is now apparently shining in his window and other neighbors' windows that's pretty bright. And he asked me about it.
Could you tell me which side of the structure that's on? Is it on the east side?
Playground side or the other?
Or the opposite
I
side?
think it's on the opposite side. And we talked very briefly about maybe shielding it or, some way of.
We heard that same concern
Oh,
from the
okay.
neighbors, and Larry and I have talked about that, and we're looking into that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're taking a look
All
at
right.
that. So thank you.
Yeah, so it's kind of balancing the lights are good, and we all know lights are good at night for deterrence. And anybody that has any type of nefarious, leanings. But now, lights are also pollution, I guess, and for people who are trying to get to sleep or.
I wish I'd brought the report, because I already got the report from the electrician. So I contacted the electrician, and he already sent me back the
Okay.
report.
Well, we'll talk
So we
about
want as much light out there as possible.
Right.
If I mean,
Well,
that's
we're
what I
at-
think
yeah.
because of security, but it's got to be in the right direction, I guess.
So we're reviewing that issue, and
Yeah.
we're looking into that. So thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Nothing from me.
And I think Kathy did a really thorough report and very articulate, but I wanted to just mention from my personal experience that you can't overemphasize how responsive the Pioneer Center is to the community.
Yes.
And a couple of examples I was thinking about earlier. 2 years ago in the summer, it got to incredible heat. We were having a heat wave, and Kathy took it on herself and her staff to open up additional hours to invite people who were frail and vulnerable in the community to come into the air conditioning. And there were even some people who had pets. They had an elegant cat, and they had a number of dogs that were very interested in the cat, so they of course separated them. But they're just, they see what needs to be done and they do it. And I don't know how you put a value on that. The other experience was more recently. It was probably a week before Thanksgiving, and maybe I was there with Senior Law Project or just walking through. Anyway, I saw Beth Kohler, the Outgoing's 30-year plus OPI case manager, in the room where the attorney usually interviews the clients, and she had all these big boxes, and she was filling them, one with the stuffing and one with the potatoes, 10 pounds of potatoes. And what had happened is that some gentleman, and I don't even know if he was a city resident, but he'd come to Beth 2 days before, and he said, I want to do something special to help people who couldn't otherwise celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday. So he gave her a budget to work with, and she looked happy. And I just think that's really what we are seeing, or maybe not seeing, because they don't really sing their own praises, but they're passionate and they're responsive to the community, and we can be very proud of who they are.
I have nothing other than thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll miss you.
Okay, staff reports.
Okay, mostly these are kind of just update types of items. Kenema Park project continues to move along. It really is nearly substantially completed. There's now a parking lot there. There's a restroom building there. There's a basketball court there. Grass is growing that was planted this fall. And so it's starting to really look like the park. Being during the winter season it's kind of a slow progression in terms of when it really starts to kind of look completed. But as we move towards the spring, the finishing items will be completed, like some of the landscaping that we won't do until right towards the end. Some fence replacement is going to be done a little bit later, and putting in the wood chips, the fall material on the playground to make it look like the playground is really completed, because it actually is already built, but you don't put those in until you're ready to actually open the park. So that's going really well. Again, we're going to plan a celebration, a community, a ribbon cutting, grand opening kind of a celebration in the springtime, and the date on that is still being worked on. So we'll definitely let you know, because we'd love to have as many of you come and join us as we can once we get that date set. The Ermatinger House update is a couple of significant things that have taken place since we last talked. The city is in the process of one of the major steps that we need to do to complete this preservation and restoration process and to continue to seek funding is we have to we need to have architectural and engineering plans in place, and we're in the process of hiring a firm to complete those plans for us. So it's called A&E, it's Architect and Engineering, and we're actually taking a contract to the City Commission at their regular meeting next week to ask for approval, and this is all part of the process. And then we have submitted a grant proposal for a community development block grant. It's through the county. It's some federal funds that go to the county, and then they get distributed for projects throughout the county. We've asked for the maximum amount, which is $200,000, and we felt we have a pretty compelling case with that grant, but we'll find out what happens there. That announcement, or the results of that, won't be known until this spring, so we'll keep you posted. The recreation update, Denise was going to give you tonight, but she ended up not feeling well, so I told her to go home and take care of herself. And then I was going to see if Larry wanted to add anything else about the maintenance or the Clackamat stuff we've been dealing with. We talked about that, I guess, a little bit already.
Yeah, Clackamat Park, get a lot of calls about when we're going to reopen. I can't tell you. I mean, right now the forecast for the river is staying pretty steady for the next 4 to 5 days, and then I think next week it'll probably start dropping. The RV park will obviously stay closed. Typically I'll wait until end of March before I can clean it up and put it back together, just because there's always that chance of flooding. I jumped the gun a couple years ago, cleaned it, put it back together, water came back and flooded me again, so I'm not going to make that same mistake. It's fairly expensive to have the electricians in, have us come in, and you're talking about pretty extensive cleanup. Putting it all back together. PGE comes in and fires it all back up. They have to go through and clean up all their transformers too to get those back online. The main body, I will watch the Clackamas River and see if it goes down low enough to where I can clean up the parking lot over there. It's still pretty muddy. There's still quite a bit of debris. Not a lot, but I'd like to clean it up before I open to the public. So I would say Clackamat Park should be open the next week or two. I'm already getting quite a few calls. Fishermen and everybody's chomping at the bit to get in. Our favorite park. So Clackamat should be online partially in the next week or two.
How do you wash off all the silt and everything off of the surfaces?
You don't.
You don't. Yeah.
Great for
Okay.
growing.
We're not allowed to wash it back in.
Okay. All right. Good.
Rules.
Good point.
Let's go. Moving on.
Exactly.
Can't put that stuff back to where it came from.
Mike, we agree with what you just did there. It's not our.
Hello out there. Hello.
Where did that come from? And we
State
can't
of
put it
Oregon.
back.
Anybody listening out there? Hello.
We are in the process of planting some trees. Did some landscaping at the cemetery this week. Replacing a maple tree at Carnegie. Should have been planted today also. Replaced a tree at Clackamat that was vandalized and broken off. And we're planting a few more trees out at West Lynn Park. So this is just my time of year where they do bare root trees, and I can buy trees real reasonably priced and fairly good sized trees. So I get a real big bang for the dollar. I plant a few trees every year around the sites where we identified them. And then we're just moving forward on pruning and starting our spring cleanup. We had a big staff meeting of goal setting of what we hope to achieve this spring. We've got all of our equipment to get ready. Spring for us is already, we're less than a month away before we actually probably start mowing, depending on weather. So we've got to get our equipment ready. We've got to have everything back together. So we're not very far from us. Actually, our season starts real quick. So we're gung ho already.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
That's it for staff.
Okay, anything else? All right, our next meeting is February 23rd, 7 o'clock, and we will adjourn the meeting at 8:44 p.m.
Nice job.
Yay!
Before 9.
Pretty efficient.
Nice, Bob.